Greetings. This is Justin Allen with the Elite Nurse Practitioner. Welcome to the Elite Nurse Practitioner Show, podcast dedicated to nurse practitioner entrepreneurism and achieving financial freedom, where I talk directly with nurse practitioners who need help. Listen up, our market is saturated. Jobs can be scarce. We are underpaid. We are undervalued. We are taken advantage of by the sharks within the healthcare system, and frankly, screw that. I'm sick of it, and it's time for a change. And listen, I'm here to help make that happen. We are powerful. We can forge a path where we are in control of our career and ultimately our financial and personal well-being. You do not need to submit to healthcare administrators and your doctor overlords. You do not have to take a measly salary. You do not have to work 50 to 60 hours a week. There is a different way, and I'm here to show you that path. This podcast is raw and unfiltered. I have not talked to the nurse practitioners in this podcast prior to the call outside of an email exchange to schedule the episode. What you're about to listen to is a consultation session between a nurse practitioner and myself. It is real, it is unscripted, it is unplanned, and I have no idea what we're going to talk about. Anything and everything can happen during our conversation. The nurse practitioners in these episodes are struggling with an issue in their professional or financial life, and they have reached out to me for help. My goal is to help the nurse practitioner with actionable advice that will enhance and improve their professional, business, and financial life. My other goal is to hopefully help my nurse practitioner sisters and brothers build a more productive, powerful, and free life. So I hope the content and information within these podcast episodes does just that. All right, onto the episode. Hello, everyone. Today, we will be talking to Sean, who is a family nurse practitioner and also a chiropractor. He practices out of Florida. He has been operating a chiropractic office for 14 years and recently became a nurse practitioner to increase his service offerings. He also teaches full-time at a nursing school. His practice has been predominantly insurance-based, but is looking to diversify his services and develop a cash arm to his practice. While the insurance portion of his practice is doing very well, he is needing help with building out the cash services, which will include men's health, IV infusion, and weight loss. Hey, Sean, how are you?
Hey, pretty well, Justin.
Well, hey, I appreciate you hopping on this call. I'm really excited about talking to you. We haven't had a chiropractor / nurse practitioner before, so I think this will be a really interesting conversation. So let's just dive right in. Tell us about yourself. Just bring us up to speed with how you became a chiropractor and how you eventually became a nurse practitioner.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first and foremost, I want to thank you for taking the time with me to meet with me here, and then what you're doing for the profession as a whole. I wish I had something like this a long time ago when I was going through the process and becoming a chiropractor. Have somebody out there to help you from that standpoint. So I think it's great what you're doing for the profession, and it's awesome. So
it's a pleasure, man.
Basically, like I said, I've been a chiropractor since 2006. Actually, I came out of grad school and worked in a practice for about a year or so. Quickly learned that I could do this on my own. And basically went out on my own about 2008, started chiropractic practice. Interestingly enough, my first practice, I fell flat on my face. I actually failed pretty miserably. And I learned a lot from it. I learned some, what not to do from that perspective, from a business perspective. And so I reopened the practice back in 2008, 2009, and I've been going ever since, doing really well from that perspective. Basically, as far as being a chiropractor, I love the physical medicine side of things, the orthopedic, neurological, diagnostic process. Back when I went through the program, back in the early 2000s, chiropractic was a pretty thriving profession. And I think it's gained quite a bit of mainstream integrative type medicine here in the future. But I noticed, as I kind of got into practice, my kids got older. I thought, it's a good time to maybe step back, and I wanted to add more. I wanted to do more. My practice has always been multidisciplinary. So I'd have nurse practitioners that work in my practice, and I work with them very closely, providing services. I had the opportunity to go into an accelerated BSN program at a local university here in the Tampa Bay region. And I think I was the first chiropractor to ever go through that program, first and only. And then finished up and went right into the family nurse practitioner program at the same university. And so interestingly enough, when I was going through that program, they approached me about teaching, which I'd never thought about doing. But I actually fell in love with kind of teaching some of the younger nursing students as I went through the process. So when I went into grad school there as part of the FNP program, they brought me in as an adjunct professor at the university. And I've been with them since about 2018 teaching. And now I'm actually full-time faculty at the university. So got a lot going on, a lot that I'm juggling and balancing between running a practice and teaching full-time as well. And so that's, pretty much where I'm at with things now. And, became a nurse practitioner because I wanted to be able to add more to the practice and serve a bigger demographic, wider patient population, and do some things that I'm not necessarily able to do as a chiropractor.
Yeah. Wow, man, you are a busy person. Yeah. How old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm 44.
44. Okay, gotcha. I have all kinds of questions here. So first, let me ask you, talk to me about how this first business failed, because I think it's really, really important for people listening to understand that sometimes the first business that you open fails because you don't know what you're doing. You make a bunch of dumb mistakes. I mean, listen, my first business failed too. Your first business failed. So tell me about what happened there, what was going on, what you opened, and just, how did it end up failing? Like,
Sure thing.
What happened?
Sure thing.
Yeah.
So basically this happened. I came out of the grad program back in 2006 as a chiropractor, and I worked for a local physician-owned chiropractic practice over here in the area. I was with them for about a year and a half or so. And, basically it's just like every other type of situation, whether it be nursing or chiropractic or physical therapy or medicine. They really kind of run you through the ringer as far as, the amount of work you're doing and patients you're seeing and those kind of things. And so it's really easy to burn out. But basically, at some point I got to the point where I said, I think I can do this on my own. I think I can open my own practice. And I was seeing, a good amount of patients there, good numbers, and I was seeing what the office was bringing. And I was being paid a fair salary, especially being my first year out. But, I made the mistake of taking that dive, not really researching the location. I went into an area, Florida, that was, really good demographic from a standpoint of income. But my practice was personal injury based. And so there was a lot of good old boys networks over that way, and a lot of connections between attorneys and other chiropractors and doctors and other chiropractors. And so it was really hard to kind of get or gain market share in that area. On top of that, I leased an office that was way too big for what I needed. Had it, custom built out and financed all new equipment and all these different things. Basically, put myself behind the eight ball before I even started. Brought over a handful of patients from the other practice, and things were going pretty well for about a month or so. Then I decided to hire a billing company, and that was probably my first mistake, in all honesty, because the billing company that I hired, again, didn't really do my research, didn't really know what to do at that point, but they weren't really familiar with chiropractic or personal injury billing and that kind of thing, and so they were not submitting my claims in a timely manner, and I ended up losing about $30,000 or $40,000 of billing and claims over the first 6 months. And it basically put me to a point where I couldn't compete in the market, and I was in debt because of all of the bells and whistles that I purchased. And then I had a major billing error that set me back and pretty much put me out of business.
So a couple of valuable lessons here. When you give someone else the control of the revenue generation in your business, it's pretty much up to them, isn't it? So
yeah.
They screwed you over.
I have never let anyone touch that side of things ever since then. So I've always had my finger on the pulse of the income and the revenue since then. So it's a really important lesson to learn.
Now, I'm not saying that, having a billing company is a bad thing. I mean, there are very legitimate billing companies out there that do very, very well. But yeah, if you have a bad one, it's bad.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think being such a, young, coming out of there, being young at the time and not really having any business experience whatsoever, I just really didn't know what to do. It was really just kind of flying blind. And so definitely learned from it. You learn from your failures. And so that was a lesson I had to learn.
Yeah. And then the debt. You said that you had a lot of debt associated with this. Did you take out a lot of loans to start this practice? Like, what happened?
It was more financing equipment, financing physical therapy equipment, tables, things like that. I spent a lot of money on the build out of the practice. It was a leased space, so I didn't have any ownership of the space, and really spent a lot of money on kind of getting it ready without really having a plan to grow.
In retrospect now, like with your other practice, did you avoid going into significant amounts of debt?
No, absolutely. Yeah, I own every piece of equipment and every item that's in my office. I own 100%. I don't have anything financed or don't carry any debt in the office at all.
Yeah. And if you were to do it all over again, is that the way you'd go again?
Oh, 100%. So it took me about a year or so after that experience to really kind of get myself back out of debt and get myself back on my feet. And then I just moved to a different area where I had a lot more connections and a lot more of a referral source, and just kind of reopened the practice in a better location. And so I went through a whole process of breaking the lease and having to pay out the lease and all these kind of things that come along with it. And so it was definitely a very expensive and important lesson to learn at the time. But going forward, it was a good move reopening, and grew from there and did extremely well going forward from there.
Good deal. Okay. This other practice that you opened up, so it's been open for about 14 years now. Do you mind maybe sharing some numbers at all? Or
Yeah, of course. interesting, as far as the practice goes, for the majority of the time that's been open, all the way up through, when COVID hit in 2020, I was averaging anywhere from 300,000 a year to 450, $500,000 a year in gross revenue on a 2.5 day work week. COVID hit in 2020. I had been, financially secure because of, my practice in general. And so I actually closed my practice down. We had a stay-at-home order here in Florida for quite some time and went through the whole essential workers thing. But I decided to close my office down for about 6 months when COVID hit in 2020. So at that point, we reopened and the office did about 150,000 over that next 6 months, 2020. In 2021, we were still dealing with the COVID thing, and our revenue was up to about 200,000 for 2021. This year, we're first quarter here about 70,000 in income, and we're estimated to have somewhere between 300 and 350,000 in revenue. Again, 2.5.
Right. I mean, it's just a part-time business, a mid six-figure income part-time business. It's great, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You want to grow, you want to have cookie cutter and grow and multiply, put systems in place, but we want to make sure we get the most out of it as far as, adding some of these other service lines in.
Okay. So, I mean, it's a very profitable business already. Do you have any other providers or anything working for you, or have you had that in the past?
Yeah, in the past, so prior to me becoming a nurse practitioner, when I was just solely, operating and working as a chiropractor, I would have nurse practitioners in my office, and I would basically pay them on a 1099, fee for service. And again, most of the work was orthopedic based, so the medical exams, prescribing, pain medications, anti-inflammatories, et cetera, muscle relaxers. We never got into the narcotic thing or opioid thing, but a lot of injection therapies, things like that. And in Florida, there's a really interesting niche for nurse practitioners in the what we call an EMC, or emergency medical condition examinations that you have to perform on some of the personal injury cases. And so we did a lot of that. And so I have urgent care that's actually right next door to my office. And the owner of it's a nurse practitioner. He's been there for, maybe 15, 20 years now. And him and I have developed quite the relationship over the years, and we're colleagues, we're friends. And so he was, him and the other nurse practitioners at that urgent care, I would basically hire them in to work independently as an independent contractor in my office to assist with the medical side of things.
I guess let me ask you, so why did you decide to become a nurse practitioner versus, I guess, just continuing to hire them and just scaling the practice as is and just having them do, a lot of this work? I guess what provoked you to go down this route that you have?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. It's interesting because as a chiropractor, you're very limited in your scope from a standpoint of, you're considered a primary care physician in Florida, at least, and you have all the liability of a primary care physician, but you're never going to work in a hospital. You're never going to work for a major medical corporation or anything as a chiropractor. That just doesn't happen. And so really your only security is either working for yourself or working for another chiropractor, which is going to pay you peanuts and really kind of run you ragged. So, you have two choices: open your own practice or work for somebody else. The laws, we have a very, in the chiropractic profession, we have a very limited strength when it comes to, you compare it to the nursing profession when it comes to legislative movement, things like that. And particularly in Florida, there's always been this movement to try to get rid of personal injury benefits for auto injuries and things like that. And that made up the majority of my practice. And so I thought, forward thinking, I said, I need to do something that's going to protect me against that. It's going to protect my ability to earn income if they were to get rid of, this particular law was going to come into effect and change things. And so I said, let me look into nursing and see how it aligns with chiropractic. And again, spending time with my colleagues and things like that were nurse practitioners, I had a great opportunity to get into an accelerated BSN program and move through it. And it was the best decision I ever made because it opened up so many doors and opened up so many opportunities and expanded my scope tremendously. And so that's generally what happened. It was just the fear of being limited as a chiropractor, that regardless of how well my business was doing, that just knowing that overnight things could change. I have friends that were in New York State, for instance, and I had a friend that was doing really, really well with DOT exams up there. And the law changed overnight where they said chiropractors could no longer do DOT exams, and it put him out hundreds of thousands of dollars in his practice because he was no longer allowed to do it. And so,
wow,
as a nurse practitioner, there's always advancement. We're always advancing, we're always moving forward, we're always gaining new rights as nurse practitioners. And Florida now has autonomous practice. So, it's just a good opportunity to get into a new profession, blend that pretty seamlessly with my previous profession, or current profession. So that was the driving factor between.
Gotcha. So to expand your scope, but also make you a lot more financially redundant, essentially.
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, do you have any plans of hiring other nurse practitioners still and, delegating work to others, or are you wanting this to be a one-man show?
As you grow, you have to expand and you have to bring in help. You can't do it all yourself. It's one of the things I tend to get in trouble with is spreading myself too thin.
Yeah.
I already have that commitment being, in a contract with the university and working full time. I have a lot of flexibility with it and it works very well with my schedule at the office, but I could be open more days and I could see more patients if I were to bring in help. So yeah, eventually I'm a big believer in kind of having systems in place. And so once the systems are in place for some of these new services, I'd like to bring in another provider to the office to help with that and then expand from there. But until those things are in place, my current practice is on autopilot, from a standpoint of the physical medicine, regenerative medicine side of the practice. That's on autopilot. That's been on autopilot for years. It's reproducible. The income's reproducible. The referrals that we get are reproducible. And I'm not really overly concerned about that. That's something that typically, a lot of nurse practitioners don't get involved with because they don't tend to have an orthopedic or neuro or physical medicine background. And so there would have to be a lot of training and things like that come into play with bringing somebody in on that end. But when it comes to the new services and things between the men's health, TRT, weight loss, IV therapies, definitely interested in bringing somebody else in. Additionally, my wife, she's in her last semester of nursing school. And so she'll be an RN in July. And so that'll be a good opportunity to have her come back and be involved with the practice as well to help out.
Yeah. I think that's a problem that almost all entrepreneurs have. We want to do it all ourselves. It's impossible to scale or grow a business with that kind of mindset. It's possible. I mean, you realize that. That's something you don't really realize when you first start a business, but after a year or two in, you kind of start seeing that you're never going to grow unless you get some help. So I think that plan is great. I think that, you getting in here, integrating these new services, developing your systems and your procedures for doing those services. And then once you get all that stuff dialed in, which will only take you a year or two, then you start hiring out help and develop, more passive income stream like you kind of already have with the other service lines on autopilot. So that's kind of your plan?
That is the plan. Yeah, that's the plan. It's to basically integrate, make it reproducible, make it systemized, and then duplicate that in different areas and in different areas throughout the region, and grow from there.
Okay, cool. Well, I guess enough talking about your background and whatnot. This is, really, really super interesting here. So I'm excited to help you out. So you're wanting to integrate men's health, IV infusion, weight loss and whatnot into your business. So I guess walk me through each service line and your thoughts. Do you want to just start with one first? Do you want to integrate all these at one time? Where's your train of thought going on this?
Yeah. So I've got your courses. I purchased your courses for IV therapy, the men's health course. I have familiarity with men's health just from being a men's health patient. I have a passion for it. I understand the patient. I understand what they're going through. I'm a TRT patient myself. So I really kind of tend to connect with those patients. My wife is very interested in starting up the IV side of the practice. And so ultimately what I think I'm going to do with the IV side of it is, get those systems in place under my current practice and then bring her into the mix with that. She also has a friend that's a paramedic that'll be an RN as well. And I can have them running that side of the practice from the IV standpoint on standing orders like you talk about in your course. From a standpoint of the TRT and medical weight loss stuff, a lot of that is telemedicine based. And so the current patient base that I have in that is pretty much telemedicine. I see the patient maybe once for face-to-face and a medical exam and then get them set up, follow-up labs and things like that. But going forward after that, it's all telehealth. And so that really isn't something that is going to require too much. I mean, I can do that from a standpoint of in my office at the university. I can do it from here. I can do it from home. There's plenty of time for me to fit that in. So ultimately, I think adding in the TRT men's health and the medical weight loss stuff will be the first goal. Now, I've already gone ahead and purchased all the things for, all supplies, everything, medications, et cetera, everything for the IV therapy as well. And so I have everything on hand. It's really just a matter of kind of putting it all together, figuring out how I'm going to integrate this into the practice, getting the marketing set up. And that these are all things that obviously we're going to talk about here during the call, but that's kind of where I'm, unfamiliar being in an insurance-based practice and being so reliant on insurance and reimbursement for so many years. I've never had to do the marketing side of it. I've always been a referral-based practice. I get referrals from an urgent care. I get referrals from attorneys. I get referrals from other doctors, and we do a lot of business back and forth that way. But I've never had to, go out and do social media marketing and direct marketing or things like that, or even the SEO kind of things or Google ads or any of that. So that's kind of where, I'm not sure where to go with it. And so I'm kind of figuring out what trying to figure out what the best option is, where to start. Do I just, distribute it between the three? Do I, start with one and kind of grow it and move forward from there? So these are all things I'm kind of contemplating, trying to figure out.
Well, you already have an advantage. You have patients walking through the door. So like you already have a huge advantage compared to someone who's starting from scratch. Because a lot of these people get walking through the door, not all of them will want, an IV bag or, start men's health or whatever, but some of them will. And so they're already coming through the door. So it's basically just putting it in front of their face in the lobby, right? Having information sheets instead of magazines for them to read, brochure of services, putting it on the wall, putting it in front of their face. So you already have that down right there. Okay. I mean, you will get bites. No question about it. You will. I mean, there's no question, right? So you do have that to your advantage. I guarantee you that a percentage of the patients walking through your door right now will convert into, men's health patients, IV patients and whatnot. I guarantee you they will. It's a different demographic though. I mean, all these people are using their insurance or it's workman's comp or something. So some of these people might not have a whole lot of cash to spend. I'm probably correct in assuming that.
Yeah, that's the one side of it, with the work that I'm in. So, personal injury work, it's a completely different demographic. A lot of these patients have, cases with attorneys and they're basically, they don't have the expendable income that you would typically target with this type of practice. And so the other side is the Medicare patient base, which I have, which does have that income. I'm in an area that's pretty, fairly affluent. I want to say within 3 miles, the zip codes were anywhere between 65 to 80,000 average household income. And I've got 50,000 cars a day that pass in front of the office.
Perfect.
We're in a good location. I'm kind of right central to we're right by the beaches, maybe 3-4 miles away from the beaches. There's a lot of money down that way. It's really just about the demographic. And that's another thing that I'm struggling with here is, the demographic of the patient base that I have in the office or that we treat typically versus the demographic that we're going to be targeting for these other services.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's going to be completely different. Yeah. Like I said, I'm sure a percentage will take a bite out of this, but let's not rely on that. Now, you said you have 50,000 cars drive by your office a day. I mean, that's enough advertising in itself to have quite a bit of walk-in traffic as long as you put a sign out there that, wellness practice, men's health, whatever, right?
Yeah, and that's the other thing we're looking at, the flags, the typical marketing flags that you put out.
Oh, yeah.
The one disadvantage is that my office is not street facing. It's in a plaza. And so the plaza is kind of a square lot. So I don't have a ton of visibility from the street, but we do have areas. I've got there's a marquee sign with our signage out front. I've got signage on the windows. I've got a, channel sign on my office. And then we have the ability to put out, those flags and things like that or signs along the where the cars are driving by.
Yeah, perfect. So I mean, definitely do that. I mean, even a little sign just on the sidewalk or whatever, weight loss, men's health, testosterone. I mean, make it just blatantly obvious. Throw them out there. I guarantee you'll get driving traffic, and that's pretty much free. Those things cost a couple $100, big deal, right? Yeah, so definitely do that part too. Now, in terms of the other marketing aspects of this, I mean, this is going to be, this is more retail marketing because this is more retail medicine, right? I mean, it's cash-based stuff, so people just need to know that you're there. Now, one thing you got to remember about these kind of services, even like men's health, weight loss, IV infusion and whatnot, is that people will often be looking for you. So you need to make it as easy as possible for them to find you. Now, I'm assuming you probably already have a website and whatnot. What I would suggest that you do is I would have a totally separate website with this wellness cash arm of your practice. Keep the two things separate. And so I would operate this as probably two separate businesses because number one is that you're already credentialed with insurance. You have Medicare, you have all this kind of stuff, right? And so you're not supposed to be billing patients for covered services, even with just commercial insurance and whatnot. And so if you have two separate entities, one credentialed with insurance and one not, it allows you to be able to bill patients cash.
Yeah.
So you don't want to have two separate bases. I would consider two separate entities here in the same under the same roof.
Yeah, and then that was kind of where I wanted to pick your brain about because I've kind of struggled with that and trying to figure out how to work it in. So the name of my clinic is Apex Health. Okay. And I know that's generic. I know I've listened to your courses and I know you really want to be specific about having what you do within the name of your practice. But on a side note with that, we have domains secured. So I have Apex Men's Health. I have Apex TRT. I have Apex IV Therapy. I have Apex Medical Weight Loss. I have all these .coms secured.
Perfect.
For the practice. So the question was really, and I know you said, you talked about it, you're sure I'm already have a website, which is actually an interesting story. When we came back from COVID here in 2021, I spent a lot of money remodeling the office, did a complete remodel, updated it, made it really nice as far as high-end inside the office. And I wanted to, I had a colleague over in St. Pete that was doing really, really well with regenerative medicine. He put me onto his marketing team. So I paid $10,000 to have a website built from scratch. And still hasn't launched yet. This is, probably 6-7 months ago. Still hasn't launched yet. We're still fine tuning, the details of it. And I also paid for a marketing service. I was spending about a total of $5,000 a month between the marketing service for them to have it was a call center based service where they had mini sites, mini funnels that would basically schedule your whole appointment for you in my EMR and set up. So all I had to do was come in, look at my schedule, and have patients on the books. And this was for typically for regen med stuff. So you're talking about osteoarthritis in the knee, neuropathy, those kind of things. And in essence, I've spent a lot of money, $15,000, $20,000 on the marketing side of it. Also, about the $10,000 to build the website, and a recurring fee of about $5,000 a month. After about 6 months, I was just looking at it and saying the return's not there. I was not getting enough patients from it to make up any income on it, and so I basically shut that down. So we still have the website that's in development, still being developed. We can add, and I was trying to figure out whether to add the TRT and IV therapy and medical weight loss to the website versus, like you said, maybe having completely separate websites for that.
I mean, for $10,000, they should be able to build out multiple websites for you. Hell.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I know.
The web developer with the Elite MP marketing agency, man. I mean, the websites are $1,500 to $2,000 and they're quality websites. Like,
saw that.
Yeah, $10,000. Geez, like that would have been 5 websites, through us. Like,
yeah.
Ooh, boy.
And it's already a bullet. It's already a bullet that's been bitten. So it's out there. So
it is what it is, right? Work with what you got. So they should at least be building you a separate landing page or something for each one of those service lines at a minimum for that kind of thing.
I can have them do that, and I can have them backlink into the website where it'll come in and do that.
So then
it's there's an ongoing fee for their management. I want to say it's $2,000 a month, something like that, $1,500 to $2,000 a month for them to do the SEO and the.
That's still a ripoff. Don't go through them with that. That's ridiculous. Yeah, I would advise no, that's ridiculous. Have them build a website, man, and cut ties.
Well, and that's the thing is I'm not sure if I even own the website in all honesty, because they may own all the content. And so if that's the case, then I might just have to eat the 10,000 and start over.
Yeah, man, these sharks, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, another valuable lesson here for anyone listening. Never, ever, ever pay these kinds of amounts of money for this sort of thing, and make sure that you never, ever allow these people to control that digital asset. Like, it needs to be, you need to register for the account for the website domain. That website needs to be associated with your email, so that way, if you ever cut ties, you got it. You can change the password. They can never access it again.
Lesson learned.
So lesson learned, right? I'm assuming you don't have those login details of that information or anything?
No, because it's still in development. So it's still under their developer site. And so once it's finished, they're going to transfer it over to my domain. But yeah, it's just I haven't okayed the finish because I'm just not happy with where I'm at with it, and so still kind of.
And there's no way you get a refund for that.
No, that was the thing. It was the first thing I thought about. We tried. It was it came on a recommendation from a colleague. That's why I didn't really hesitate to do it. His office is getting 20 to 30 new patients a month from his website. I have no doubt that they do good work. It's just we went through a lot of redesigning with their website. I found different website design I like. It just took some time. If
you can, try to get them to transfer the website over to your domain. Make sure you have access to the hosting of it and everything. And my web developer might be able to walk you through the process and be like, this is what you need, whatever. And then he could get access to it and then take it and then make sure that it's actually in your name. You know what I mean? So just FYI. Anyways, though, whatever. If you can get them to build landing pages for you for each service line, great. You already have the domains associated with it, Apex Men's Health, whatever. You can have those in, on your Google business listings or whatever. And it just basically, if someone lands on that domain, it just transfers them to this already made website, but just on the landing page, right?
Yeah. And are you thinking separate Google listings for each service line?
That's going to be difficult from just one physical location. I mean, if you could, that'd be great, but I don't think it's going to be difficult because Google business listings, you can usually get away with 2 listings for one address, but after that, it just does red flags and whatnot, and then they'll basically start removing them. Typically, you can get away with 2 listings for one address, but after that, though, it doesn't work. Trust me, I've tried. All right. I hope everyone's enjoying the episode so far. I just wanted to take a quick break to thank everyone listening and also give a big thank you to all of my social media followers and email subscribers. If you haven't done so yet, please subscribe to our email list at www.elitenp.com and make sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Email subscribers will receive updates on new weekly podcast episodes, multiple weekly articles we publish, new courses, and everything else related to helping you succeed. Remember, all elite nurse practitioner courses are designed to help you build a niche practice, increase your financial strength, and to break free from the rat race. If I can break free and the other countless nurse practitioners can break free, then so can you. Additionally, please share this podcast with your other nurse practitioner sisters and brothers out there. The more NPs that venture out on their own, the stronger our profession will become. Now, let's get back to the episode. So what I'm thinking here, though, is, Apex. That's a great name. That's a fantastic name. And so you could kind of rebrand your location itself and just call it Apex Health and Wellness or whatever. But so your digital presence online is Apex Men's Health, Apex Weight Loss, Apex IV Hydration, whatever. And so, your digital brand says those names. People are like, okay, wow, cool, Apex Men's Health. When they arrive to your actual physical location, it's still branded as Apex. And they're not going to think any different.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
That's actually how I had it planned to be set.
Okay, perfect. Beautiful. So we're already on the same page there. So from that aspect, that should be okay. Yeah, I mean, if you can market it as separate service lines, it really does work better. I mean, men's health patients will go to a wellness practice that has men's health, but if it's just a men's health practice, it usually will generate more interest and more people will come. Mm-hmm. Same thing with weight loss. If it's just a weight loss clinic, it just really depends on your SEO, how well it's ranking for each one of those keywords. And that's just going to come down to those keywords and the headings, those keywords embedded into images and whatnot, the content on your website, yeah, it just depends on how much you really want to put into it.
Yeah, and see, when I do a kind of a market research through the area, I see a lot of for instance, we've got Options Medical Weight Loss, and that's solely what they focus on. It's a one niche medical practice, and they focus on medical weight loss. And then you've got Center for Men's Health, and that's all TRT. There's not a lot in the area with multiple services running through the single office, and so that's kind of where and I know through your principles of what you teach is to have that one thing within the name and have the one thing within the practice, and focus on. Some of them are synergistic between weight loss and TRT and things like that.
Right. Sometimes more of just a general wellness practice works just fine. I mean, I know some wellness practice owners that do very, very, very well and have multiple different services. So again, it just depends on how easy it is for people to find those services. So when someone types in men's health, if Apex Men's Health can come up online, then you're going to be good, even though it's just a general wellness practice. So that's going to be an SEO game, really. So I think that maybe just Apex Wellness Center, and maybe in the subheading you put, men's health, medical weight loss, and IV hydration. If you just put that in the subheading, then it makes it pretty simple. Because people are going to read that too. So that's what I would suggest that you do, because you're offering so many services. That's what I would do. Wellness practices do work. It's just going to come down to, like I said, having landing pages for each service line, marketing each service line, and just making sure that those keywords rank whenever people look you up.
Okay. So when it comes to cost of marketing, that's an issue, because I never know what, and that's part of the reason I got in trouble with this website thing, was because I don't have familiarity with it. So I kind of relied on a colleague's information to go forward. But we have this next month, I'm expecting about $60,000 to $70,000 in revenue in the office. So I'll have about $20,000 to $30,000 to play with when it comes to marketing and trying to build out these service lines. And so that's kind of where I'm at with it. Looking at how much do you think you should allocate in marketing to start this up? to make it effective to get it going? I know the more you spend, the more it's going to come, but it's one of those things where to get this started, to go forward, to start the marketing process from a digital standpoint, your Google Ads stuff, your Facebook stuff, your Instagram stuff, your SEO, etc. How much do you think you should allocate to start this up to get it to launch?
With advertising online, something magical happens when you start spending about $10,000 a month on ad spend. I mean, I've started multiple different businesses, a telemedicine practice, an e-commerce business, a couple men's health practices and whatnot. And what I found is that if you can spend about $10,000 a month on ad spend, it really starts generating a lot of engagement, a lot of interest. You start getting a lot of leads. But it's $10,000 a month. It's expensive. That's ad spend. That's not management though. Okay. That's not someone managing the ads and everything for you. With that kind of ad spend, you're probably going to be spending at least $2,000 or $3,000 a month, probably just on marketing, ad management fees.
Okay.
So, if you have $20,000, $30,000 to play around with, I mean, you could really do a lot of damage in your area. I mean, you really could. That's a lot of money to spend. And so if you have a $20,000 investment, what I would suggest is maybe spending anywhere between $2,000 to $5,000 on getting a solid SEO development strategy in place, get your website up and running, having those keywords, pop up on search engines, men's health, IV infusion, weight loss and whatnot. And then spend the other, $3,000 to $5,000 on marketing management and then another $10,000 on ad spend. If you do that for the first month or two, it should really generate a lot of interest, a lot of paying patients. I mean, it should be worthwhile. There should be quite a bit of a return on that.
And as far as ad spend, dividing that up between something like Facebook versus Google Ads versus, where do you find the value with regards to men's health and IV therapies? I know that when you look at them together, it's, they're two different markets when it comes to the demographic for men's health versus maybe IV therapy relating to more a different demographic. But you feel like the Google ad route is better than a Facebook or Instagram type marketing?
No, I think a combination of them all work great. You want to be on as multiple channels as possible. You don't want to pigeonhole yourself into just one marketing channel, because you're going to find patients on Facebook, and you'll find some patients on Google, then you'll find some patients on YouTube, and you'll find some patients in an ad above a urinal at a bar. I feel like that having multiple channels in place works best. I think the biggest bang for your buck really is SEO, though, especially in a highly competitive area, because people are actively looking for you and you need to be easily found. So I would suggest, even a billboard or something works well for the first, 3 months or so, just to get the word out. So, traditional advertising still does work.
I was going to ask you about things like direct mail versus radio.
I don't know, man. I found direct mail to be a waste of money. Yeah, because it's junk mail. People get it in their mailbox and they might look at it. Most of the time, you throw it away. I never look at that stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I've always found it to be a waste of money. I mean, it can work in some markets, but I wouldn't. It's expensive and it can be a waste of money. So yeah, maybe like a billboard. If you can get some niche ads in some gyms and some restaurants and some bars, those work really, really well too, because that's where your patients are. You can even develop relationships with like salons, barber shops, those kinds of places. Those convert really well too, especially for men's health.
Good, interesting. It's interesting because the gym, I've got 3 gyms within a 2 to 3 mile radius. One of them I go to, but Crunch Fitness down the road, they actually have a business vendor account that you can purchase. It's about $100 a month, but you can go in there anytime with your business and set up marketing tent and that kind of thing. So pretty much access directly to the
worth it.
Market.
Yeah. That would be worth it, man. And this is the thing too about marketing. You're gonna spend a lot of money up front for the first few months. Then you kind of find out what works. Then you can start tailoring back that budget. You know what I mean? Like at this point with my men's health practice, I don't really spend all that much money marketing anymore. Like I know what works. Word of mouth has started. It just snowballs. I've been open for 3 years. I rank number 1. People know us in the area. I could probably honestly stop spending any dollars marketing. My practice would still grow at this point. But it took time for that to happen, right?
Yeah, so, and that's kind of the thing that's interesting is, I look at the demographics in the area, and there's not, within this particular area, my particular town, there's really maybe 1 or 2 places that are doing men's health. Then you've got, your bigger places that are out in Tampa, the city, and they're
sure,
they're your big time.
Well, yeah, don't
and stuff. But
Yeah, don't advertise there. Stay with the smaller areas. Smaller areas are gold mines.
yeah, I'm right in between two golf courses. My office is literally, half a mile away from two separate golf courses.
Yeah.
And, a lot of good opportunities.
Golf course ads work really well too if you can get on the scorecards and stuff. Food for thought. You can try that. So yeah, but anyways, though, I would say that if you have that kind of money, man, I think hiring out a marketing agency would really offload a lot of the work for you. I mean, schedule a consultation with the Elite MP marketing team if you want, and see if they can help you out. Give it a try for a month or two. It's not going to hurt.
Yeah,
anything,
absolutely. That's something I'll look into here.
Yeah.
I've already bit the bullet on the their marketing agency, so that's just a loss. It's a loss on the business. But again, I think I'm in a situation where it's I'm doing well enough between the practice and my position at the university where I'm comfortable, and I don't mind losing the money. It's a risk,
right.
but.
No, you're in a fantastic position. I mean, that's what happens when you become financially secure through multiple different income streams. You have the money to risk, So yeah, let's not dive too much into the marketing because we're not gonna be able to talk about anything else. So do you have any other questions about what you're gonna do with that?
No, I think you gave me some good feedback on that. It's along the lines of what I was thinking as far as that goes. And, it's really the big question was, kind of integrating it into the practice as a wellness type of situation versus having a separate, like I considered maybe having a separate location or whatnot for the IV side of things. Room does tend to be a little bit, I've got, 3 treatment rooms here plus a physical therapy room. But when I think about it, it's kind of hard to see where I'm going to do the IV therapy, in the office, the way it's set up. So I'm considering, maybe renting out some other space, locally, specifically just for that. But
well, I would avoid doing that right now from the get go. Just work with what you got. I mean, you're only open 2.5 days. I mean, the other days out of the week, could you not be utilizing the space to the fullest and just schedule out, your physical medicine and, this workman's comp stuff just on Monday, Tuesday, for example, and then the rest of the week is just the wellness stuff?
Yeah. I mean, typically that's what we do. But in that case, I do have to bring somebody in because of the fact that, I'm teaching those other days. And so
sure,
that's something that, again, once my wife is finished and has her RN in a couple months here, we'll be able to add that into standing orders and those kind of things in the office. So.
Yeah, there you go. She could be there giving injections. She could be there starting IVs and whatnot. And then you're only there just a few days out of the week. With Men's Health, dude, you only need to be seeing patients 1 day a week. I mean, it's not 5 day a week kind of a thing. It's just really not unless you have thousands of patients, which probably not going to happen for a while. Same thing with the weight loss. I mean, you don't, as the provider, you only need to be there just a handful of hours a week. That's the beautiful thing about these little practices, especially if you have them on a subscription, cash-based model too. They're paying you monthly, but you're only seeing them once every 3 months. Or once every 2 months or something, and you're just generating cash monthly. That's the beautiful thing about, that subscription model.
Yeah, that's actually how we have it set up now for the small patient base that we have on it is, it's all monthly membership. So they pay, it's on ACH or they pay up front and get a discount for paying, 3 to 6 months off at a time.
Yep. That's the best model for a cash-based practice. Yeah. So with the Men's Health, the IV, and the weight loss, in terms of integrating all of this in at one time, I normally advise not doing that all at one time for the new business owner. But you have some time, you have some money, you have the space, like you already have the business there and you know what you're doing. And so I feel like that you could integrate most of this in, over a period of just a couple months. I don't think it'd be a good idea to integrate it all in at one time.
Stagger.
But maybe exactly staggered over maybe just a couple months. That's probably what I would do. I mean, you already do a little Men's Health though now, right?
Yeah, I'm doing Men's Health and weight loss. Basically, what I did is just kind of set up a trial run with, a handful of patients that were interested and, had some referrals come from it. And so just to kind of work out the kinks as far as, pricing and that kind of thing. So, it's just really just a handful of patients. And then, like I said, I'm kind of one of those people that I like to have the system in place before growth. I like to make sure that everything is lined up from that perspective before trying to take it on too much.
So do you have any questions then in terms of the systems for the Men's Health or the weight loss? I mean, it sounds like you're already kind of doing it. You're following the steps in the model in the course. I mean, do you have any specific questions there?
No. I think, the content that you provide in the course kind of walks you through it. It's great from that perspective. And again, I already have a kind of a background in it, being a patient myself for years and years.
Right.
And so that, that helps quite a bit. But yeah, as far as the implementation of the medications and so on and so forth, and dosages and things like that, I'm very comfortable with all that.
Okay. So then with that said, once you pull the trigger on marketing, are you going to be able to deliver? Because the one thing you do not want to do is advertise for something and then not being able to deliver that service just because you're so stressed out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's my concern is being spread too thin.
Right.
It's if I'm teaching 3 days a week over at the university, and again, my schedule is very flexible from a standpoint. I know my hours. I know what I'm teaching well in advance, a year in advance, so I know exactly what my availability is. And then I've got my commitment to my current practice, which is a couple days a week, 2.5 days a week. And so the thought process is to either bring somebody into the current practice and train them on the systems we have in place for my current physical medicine regen med practice, and then me be the sole provider on the TRT men's health, side of it. Because again, a lot of that's going to be telehealth based. A lot of that's going to be, remotely I can access and get with patients on the fly with that, versus bringing somebody in to work solely in that side of it. See, I think I prefer to, when it comes to the actual passion of what I want to do, the passion is the men's health thing. It is the medical weight loss and the men's health thing. That's kind of where I enjoy treating those patients. When it comes to the physical medicine, I've been doing it for so long that it's pretty routine. And it's not that I don't have a passion for helping people or anything like that. We actually, help a lot of people and people love what we do. But I think it's probably easier to bring somebody into that side of the practice because it's already established.
I like this idea. And I think you just came up with your own plan here. I totally agree with it. Get someone else to do the physical medicine stuff. You've been doing this for, over a decade now. Train someone else, have them do that. And now you start putting your energies towards, this cash arm of your practice. I think that's a good idea. That's what I would do.
Absolutely.
You could hire another NP or whoever just to get in there, start doing the physical component for you, start doing all of that. And then you can start dedicating your energies into these income generating activities in terms of marketing, maybe going and setting up a booth at Crunch, doing those income generating activities, getting the word out and whatnot, as you slowly start building up the men's health arm and the weight loss arm. And then once your wife gets done with RN school, then you can slowly start integrating the IV into it. She can do the IVs and whatnot. And this will be many months from now. And this cash arm is starting to grow and scale. You got systems in place, hopefully the physical medicine component's kind of running itself. And then when your wife gets your RN, she can come in, you start integrating the IVs right then and there. And then within 6 to 12 months, I feel like that you would have all the systems in place. And then at that point, it's going to be just different problems to deal with and have, you know what I mean? Like
I probably welcome those problems. So
right
at that point,
right. Yeah. Those are going to be good problems, growing problems, I think that's a solid plan. I really do. I think that makes sense.
I agree. I think I'm glad we had the opportunity to kind of brainstorm on that. I think it answered a lot of questions that I had as far as, direction, trying to get these things in order. You got so much going on in your head when you're trying to put it all together, and meanwhile trying to work in your business and so on and so forth. But obviously I want to work on it instead of in it at some point here. Big believer in the Michael Gerber thing. So yeah, that's definitely where I'll be with it.
And, you're in your mid 40s too. This is the time that you start doing this, it's now or never, basically. Like, it's time to start developing these systems in place. And then, within the next 1 to 2 years, you are only working on your business. You're not really working in it much at all. Like, at this point in my journey, I'm working more on my business than actually in my business. Like, my men's health clinic, the other nurse practitioners working for me see more patients than I do at this point. But I busted my ass and I paid my dues and I developed those systems. I developed those protocols. I developed it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
many years. Yeah. Many years, many nights of not sleeping, being stressed, but it happened though, so I work more on my business now. And so I think you're like right there. You already have the business. You already have all that stuff set up. It's now just fine tuning this over the next year or two. And then I think by the time you're 46, 47 years old, you should be able to start delegating work to others. And you really should have a pretty powerful, passive income here.
Yeah, that's the goal. Ultimately, the goal is to get passive income down the road and retire on it. So
yeah.
The other thing I did want to ask you is regards to that. So with your men's health practice, we have it set up when it comes to bringing in your NPs to work in that practice. And again, if it were to me bringing in the NP to work in the regenerative med / physical medicine practice here, I know it's regional, varies region to region area, you're out west and so on and so forth. But typically, what do you think from I pay my employees well. My staff that I have here, I pay them very well. I pay them well above what they typically would get on the market. And they're very loyal and very, they refer patients in, and they've been with me for years and years and years. So where do you think a fair starting point for a nurse practitioner would be coming into a practice? And would you recommend it being more somebody that's seasoned versus somebody that is coming out of school, where you can mold them from that perspective?
Well, I mean, I think it's all the same processes regardless of what service you're offering. I do want to touch on what you mentioned about paying people well. I think that is so important. So I'm glad that you do that, and make sure you do that for the nurse practitioners that you hire too. If you pay people well, they're going to do a good job for you. If you pay them shit, expect shit work, right? If you pay them well, they're going to do well. And so in terms of, what you should pay them, I personally like more of a production-based model. You hire them as a 1099, so it's very little risk for you. And so what number is that? So that's going to be totally different per service line, right? And so I guess for my men's health practice, I pay my nurse practitioners essentially 50% of the cost of, the initial visit, and then for follow-ups. And so, we're on a subscription-based model, but the initial visit's $200. And so I pay them $100 for that. I don't charge for follow-ups because it's a subscription-based model, right? I mean, it's all inclusive. Everything's included, the visits, the medications, everything. So I pay them $50 for follow-ups because follow-ups only take 10, 15 minutes. The initial visit takes 30 to 60 minutes, depending on, their history and whatnot. And so I feel like that if you could give them something production-based that comes out to about $100 to $150 an hour, you're going to get stellar work, and you're going to get an NP that really cares. So
do you bonus them on any long-term, like if they're closing, 6 months to a year of care as far as the membership goes? Obviously you can have a month-to-month model versus a discounted model. If you give them 10% for doing a year up front, are you bonusing your NPs on closing those longer term memberships?
I don't, because I feel like 150. The way our practice is structured, they're making closer to $200 an hour. I think that's fair. It's easy work. It's not difficult. Good luck finding any NP job that's going to pay you $150 to $200 an hour. It's not going to happen.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So I don't give them bonuses for that. I do give bonuses though to my staff, my medical assistants and stuff. I give them bonuses because they really are the ones who run the practice. They're the ones answering the phones. They're the one dealing with complaints. Like, they are there 5 days a week, 40, 45 hours a week. The provider just comes in for, 4 to 8 hours a week or something. Right.
Yeah.
So I do bonus my staff though, because I really think that is just critically important. I think the medical provider is important. Don't get me wrong. I do, but just the staff, I honestly think they're more important because they're the ones there every day. So I give them bonuses. Now, that's not based off production or it's not based off of performance. Maybe it should be, but we're performing so well that I don't really consider that. I just give them $1,000 bonuses for Christmas and $1,000 bonuses for on July 4th. So my medical assistants make $20 an hour, plus they're getting, $2,000 in bonuses a year. That's pretty damn good for an MA.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I don't know. Did that answer your question at all?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm just kind of thinking in my head where I'm at as far as, with the, because again, it's a different service line. Talk about bringing somebody into the Regen Med type of thing when we're talking about a one-time service, versus a membership with stem cell, things like that. It's typically a one-time, one shot type service.
So I guess give me just a general number real quick. If you can off the top of your head, on average,
I've got my numbers. I've got my numbers down, so I know exactly what.
Okay, so on average, how much money is being generated an hour there? In the physical medicine component of this business. All right, so a rough estimate.
Okay, so again, 85% of his personal injury work. I'll make about $350 a patient visit. We probably see 10 to 20 a day. So we're anywhere between $3,500 to $7,000 a day on personal injury patients. With our Medicare patients, I make $500 a visit. And we treat viscosupplementation in the knee. So I'm at $500 a visit. Basically, if they have one knee, it's $5,000 for the patient, and if they have two knees that are bad, we make $10,000 on the patient. Personal injury patients, we make about $8,000 a patient. So, our bracing with our DME, if I put a back brace on a patient, they pay me, $1,200. I pay put a knee brace on them, they pay me $700. PRP injections, we get about $400 an injection. 400 per region. And then with stem cell, one-time injections, we charge about $5,000 for the injection. So cost me about two.
Right.
Make a $3,000 profit.
Right. I think that what you need to be doing here, I mean, don't make your nurse practitioner employee rich. I mean, these are really good numbers. I mean, you have expenses and stuff, but I think if you can run these numbers and get something to about $150 an hour, I think that's probably what I would do then with those, with those kinds of numbers. Now you can give them little bonuses based on, the stem cell injections and those sorts of things, since those are a little bit more higher dollars. So you give them a little bit more of a percentage on that, maybe 10, 20%, but keep the average production at about $150 an hour. So, these physical medicine patients you're making, $350 on. How long do those patients take? 30 minutes?
Patients in about 45 minutes to an hour, but I also have therapists that work with them as well. So honestly, the provider role in that situation is they'll see them for medical, they'll see them for any medications or injections that they need. And then my other staff provides the physical therapy and the soft tissue work and all those kind of things. So honestly, the nurse practitioner, they're really seeing the patient for any medical needs or examination needs, that kind of thing.
Right. So it's pretty easy work. Yeah. I think something about the $150 an hour range would be sufficient. That's what I would do. And that's good money. And I'm sure some nurse practitioners listening to this are like, hey, where are you located? What's your information? Because let me shoot you a phone call if you're going to be paid $150 an hour. Yeah.
I've seen the market. I follow the market. And that's part of the problem is this, saturation of the market, which is why everybody needs to get out, start to open up their own practices.
Honestly, it really is. Yeah. Okay. No, I think that, I think we come to a few ideas here and whatnot. Do you have any other questions? I feel like that as long as you structure this, I would do a separate LLC for the cash business. Okay. Just to keep things a little bit cleaner. You're already doing the services. I mean, you already have the subscription-based models in place here. You kind of already know what you're doing there. So, I mean, I guess, do you have any other questions?
No, I think I really think it was, just kind of that direction that you gave me with kind of that brainstorming together that kind of really helped me put some of that together with how I need to move forward. I think a big thing with me was just the time management of it and figuring out, I can't grow without having the help. And so that's kind of the side of it that, I was one of those guys that's just kind of super analytical, and I get the, paralysis by analysis quite often because I'm always thinking, 100 miles an hour. And so for me, it really helped to kind of, talk with you and figure out, kind of get a plan together for how I want to grow this over the next, 6 months.
Yeah. That's what I would do, man. And you're going to have to hire someone else to start offloading some work, or you're going to have to quit your teaching job or something. Like, there's no other way to do this.
Yeah. I mean, I like that, the teaching job is great because I got great benefits and it pays off my student loans. So yeah, and I also like the fact that being associated with that level of R1 research university kind of really actually helps me with patients too. It's well known in the area. Everybody knows about the university. And so it kind of has a little bit of adds a little bit to the background when it comes to that professionalism and things like that. So, and I enjoy doing it. So, but the teaching thing, and they pay me pretty well, but obviously my business is the priority in the end.
Yeah. Well, I think that you're going to find out in the next 6 months or so where you're going to be going, and then, direction wise, if for some reason this thing just blows up and grows, beyond your wildest dreams. I mean, it can. I mean, I know some NPs who started these little niche practices, these wellness practices, and I mean, they just absolutely, it's insane how much money they're making. And so if that happens to you, then you have to just sit back and reassess, what's your time worth? Is the teaching even really worth it? Even if it is with the good benefits and the student loan reimbursements. I mean, if you're making 100,000 plus a month, you can just pay your damn student loans off yourself.
Yeah, that's a good point. So, I agree.
Yeah. Go where the income is and go where you feel most fulfilled.
Yeah. And I think that's been that's great. That's great advice, because that's kind of been my issues, is finding what is going to fulfill me, what keeps me motivated, keeps me passionate about being a nurse practitioner, being a provider in general. And so, I enjoy what I do in the office. I do like physical medicine, and I've been doing it forever. I know it like the back of my hand, but I do have a passion for these other patients and the men's health. And I've seen the impact it can have on relationships, and on men's life. And it's just, I really just, that's the passion. So
yeah. Cool. That's where I would go then. Well, I like to end the episodes with you asking me a question. Do you have any questions for me?
Honestly, man, you've been a great help as far as kind of guiding me with this. And, I think I'm going to be reaching out to your marketing people on your end over there as far as the web stuff goes. But as far as questions with you, I think we share very similar thought processes on things as far as business goes and things like that. Do you subscribe to or find any benefit to joining some of the organizations like A4M or some of the men's health, organizations that are out?
Nah, not really. I mean, I've kind of joined some of these organizations before and piddled around for a month or two. And I personally really didn't find a whole lot of value out of it. That's just me. A lot of people do. I don't know. I kind of like to discover things myself. So
Gotcha.
yeah. I personally didn't though, but I'm not saying that you won't. Get in there for a month or two and see. Some people do, some people don't. So
I hear you.
yeah.
All right. Well, definitely. And, looking forward to getting into some more of your coursework and some of the advanced stuff. And, that's kind of where I'm at with it. So
yeah,
definitely
cool.
Appreciate the time. And
no, I appreciate you hopping on this, man. I think this was a great call. And let's follow back up in 6 to 12 months or so and see where you're at.
Yeah, sounds good. I'll definitely reach out and let you know how things are going.
Cool. Sounds good. I appreciate the call. Thanks.
Absolutely.
Right. Bye. I hope everyone enjoyed that episode with Sean. I think one thing to walk away from this is that a business is a constantly growing thing, okay? You never just create it and then sit back and it just sits there. If you do that, if it becomes stagnant, it'll eventually fizzle out and fail. It always needs to be worked on. Sean was a chiropractor. He opened up his practice, operated for 14 years, did very, very well for himself, especially as a little part-time business. He had multiple services into it. He even had some nurse practitioners in there to help him. He decided to go back and get his nurse practitioner license so he could even expand his services more. And now he is going to start integrating more and more services into it. Men's health, IV infusion, weight loss. This is a constantly changing thing. So the physical medicine component of it is set in stone, basically. It's there and it just works on its own. It's on autopilot, basically. So now he's going to hire someone else to do that portion of the business for him. And now he can work on the new service lines. I suspect in 1 to 2 years, he'll probably hire someone else to start doing those things and he can just start working on something else, okay? That is a growing business. You're constantly adding new things, taking things away that might not be profitable, okay? Expanding services. This is what working on the business means. So that's where you want to get to as a nurse practitioner entrepreneur. Working in the business, seeing patients, answering the phone calls. This stuff is important. Yes, okay? We are trained for patient care, to see patients. Don't stop doing that. That's working in the business. But you want to get to a point that where you are working on it, you're growing it. And that's what Sean is doing. He will continue to work in it for a little while longer, and he'll probably always work in it seeing men's health patients and whatnot, but he'll have more time to work on it. So I want you guys to walk away from this episode knowing that a business is never something that you just create and sit back and it's done. That is not how a successful growing business starts and operates. All right. Hope everyone enjoyed this episode. You guys take care. Bye. Thank you for listening to the show. Quick legal disclaimer. The content of this podcast is meant for informational and entertainment purposes only and should not be used as legal, financial, medical, regulatory, or practice-specific advice. For information pertaining to your specific legal, financial, medical, or practice-specific needs, please be sure to consult with your lawyer, CPA, medical director, and/or your state's practice laws and the most up-to-date clinical guidelines. As always, do your due diligence when it comes to any information found online and in podcasts. The content in this podcast is copyrighted by Galaxy Medical Southwest 2022 and cannot be duplicated, rebroadcasted, or reproduced without our written permission.